Welcome back to Healing the Nation. My name is Eric Goepel. Please stay tuned for the second part of our interview with Joe Aaron. But first, a word from our sponsors.
Since 2008, California Lightworks has been guided by a vision focused on the research, design, development, and manufacturing of state-of-the-art commercial LED grow lights and automation equipment for greenhouse and indoor horticulture. By applying the latest advances in high-efficiency, solid-state lighting and controls technology, their team provides worldwide growers new grow lights that deliver clear benefits at a competitive price. Backed by their solid reputation for standing behind their products, California Lightworks also offers industry-leading warranties on all their commercial grow lights. To learn more about California Lightworks, go to californialightworks.com, and to view their current investment opportunity, please go to the investment marketplace at Wrazel.com.
And for patients, especially in a state like California, where where cannabis products are mostly priced out of their range, because if you're a cannabis patient and you have to, we saw some data from the Canadian Department of Veterans Affairs. They have a reimbursement program in Canada where where Canadian veterans are able to be reimbursed, I think, up to maybe an ounce a month at about $8.50 Canadian a gram. And in the course of that reimbursement program that Canada operates, the 12,000 or so veterans that participated, they averaged about a little bit less than 2 pounds a year in consumption, or a little more than 2 grams of flour a day, flour equivalent a day. Now in Canada, that cost the Canadian government about $6,500 per veteran, which was pretty reasonable for them. In a state like California, where obviously no one is reimbursing you, it would cost a patient who is consuming about that rate about $10,000 a year out of pocket, which is not sustainable for any patient. So not only, I think is important for, to deal with some, issues like affordability in a market, but it's also vastly important to educate patients to understand that there are a variety of different approaches to cannabis. And you're not going to get this education, I wouldn't expect it necessarily, from, a bud tender in a dispensary. That is not to say that there are not knowledgeable bud tenders. However, their experience in treating patients, they're not clinicians, they're not consultants necessarily. So, understanding both, the validity of a microdose protocol or a low dose protocol, I think is really important for patients, because it is a way to both maintain cost, which is important, as well as you were saying, not overstimulating your cannabinoid receptors and diminishing the returns that you get from taking cannabis or using cannabis as a medicine.
Yeah, and the cost in comparison, I mentioned this earlier, we have what's called a therapeutic range that you're trying to stay in. And without the graph here, it's really high doses, smoking, dabs. Your dosing graph will look like this over a week's time. It's straight up and down. You're high, then you come down. And so
quick onset, and then it disappears.
Yeah, so if this is your range and you're doing this all day, you're just getting a little bit of therapeutic benefit for long term. So when you eat an edible, the range goes way over that therapeutic window and back in about 8 hours later, depending on the potency of the cannabis. What I try to do is curve them straight into that range and then keep them in that range 24 hours a day. I found that to be the most beneficial way to not only dose yourself, but the difference between my products and most is there is no high. A lot of my patients, I have to push them. You need to keep taking it. Well, I don't feel nothing.
Right.
It's like, I know you're not really going to feel anything, but when you get your scan and it comes back with dramatic results, you'll know you're on the right path. So my protocol for 90 days is $1,500. I mean, I think one dose of chemo is $1,000. And my goal with my clients is, and I've had them come in, Eric, they've come in, they've already had 6 rounds of chemo, and it came back. Yeah. They could be currently on chemo, or they were just diagnosed and they don't know where to go. So what I try to tell people is take a breath, pause, and try this protocol for 1 month. If you see no results, then you can decide on the chemo. But in 1 month, you should see dramatic changes in not only the tumors themselves, but your overall health. You mentioned before about how cannabis is antiemetic. It stops nausea, and it does that dramatically. And it can be done in the lowest dose.
Right.
The clients that I've helped with stage 4 metastatic cancers, they take no more than 100 milligrams a day of these protocols. That's the equivalent of taking a small hit off of a joint. That's how low amount of cannabinoids they're actually taking. But they're taking it multispectrum, they're taking it over time, and they're taking it in a way that they stay in their window. And that's really the goal for all of my clients. And it doesn't matter if it's stage 4 cancer or you have dementia.
Or IBS.
Yeah,
Crohn's,
IBS,
or,
Crohn's, every type of skin disorder. I've had some of the strangest disorders, people coming to me, and they had no other option. I have a lady that 10 years ago, she was at a football game and a kid stepped on her foot with their cleat. And it cut her foot open. She went to the doctor, they sewed it up. Her foot ballooned up. It's been 10 years. She has a thing called complex regional pain syndrome. And her little tiny foot looks like a balloon that's been blown up. Wow. It's awful. The pain is astronomical. So she went on the show The Doctors 5 years ago. And she actually sat in the front row and hung her foot out to let them, notice that she's there. And as soon as they finished the taping, they all ran up to her. What's going on with your foot?
Right.
So they gave her own show. She did her own show. They gave her 5 experts from across the country. And 5 years later, didn't change a thing. She got on the cannabis protocol. In about 2 months, her foot shrunk back to normal. So the power of cannabis is there for everyone. It's just you have to take that step. And then I always tell everyone, educate yourself first. There are government websites that you can go to, cancer.gov, which is the National Cancer Institute Board. You type in cannabinoids and cancer there, and you'll find 1,500 medical journals of how cannabinoids help with cancer, an anti-tumoral effect, anti-nausea effect. And it's really more or less we need to get that information out to the general public because it's been stifled. And unfortunately, a lot of people are steered wrong. They think they know what they're doing. They go into a cannabis dispensary, and as you said, a lot of the bud tenders don't know the medical side. There are some great ones, but most of them are selling you the high.
And that's what I think most retail outlets are geared toward, right?
Yeah.
Like they don't present
it's
themselves.
It's a bigger market,
right? They don't present themselves as being a medical or retail location, and so and you get what you get. So.
Yeah, and what I've tried to do is I've taken a different path. I mean, I can make products all day long and formulate a product that'll get you high for 24 hours if I wanted, but I'm really on that track for medical cannabis and medical trials. I mentioned earlier to you in our meeting outside how I'm working with some doctors in North Carolina, and we may be starting the first clinical trials there, research and development, with these protocols. He's a drug patent doctor. He's patented over 700 drugs, and he puts them through his own clinical trials and then sells them. So now he's starting to realize the importance of cannabinoids, and we had a great meeting, and it looks like we will start some type of trial. It might just be research and development to start, but my goal is to put these into an FDA trial and really show the world how powerful cannabis really is.
And one of the in the Veterans Cannabis Coalition mission statement, we say we work to end cannabis prohibition and drive the research and development of cannabis-based treatments through the Department of Veterans Affairs. So, in our primary piece of legislation that we've advocated for in Congress has been the VA Medicinal Cannabis Research Act. So we recognize that even as patients are experiencing all of these great results, the necessity in bearing out that experience in research. And one of the major issues with cannabis research in the United States has been the vast difficulty in doing human clinical trials, which are human clinical placebo-controlled, randomized, double-blind studies are the sort of gold standard FDA trial, which are necessary to move a product, into the final phase, or that is the final phase, excuse me, and then into onto the market. So, but we're in a situation now where there is so much potential within the plant, and yet there are so few entities spending any real money, anywhere close to the amount of money I think that is warranted in investigating cannabis, largely because of federal law stifling research and development in this country. And and going back to the power of microdosing, I just read about a clinical trial in Israel, which is one of the few places that can do human clinical trials, where they were showing I think pain relief results at as low as like 500 micrograms.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I mean, right? I mean, and now you're talking about being able to deliver a therapeutic effect at an incredibly low dose, which also means an incredibly low cost, because THC
low cost, no high. Yeah, it's almost like homeopathy in a sense. And in fact, some of the greatest studies out of Israel, one of them, Mashulan just did, I think 6 months ago, was the acidic compounds. Yep. And I'm either Irish or lucky or somewhat smart, but I had been doing this for 10 years.
Right.
And the reason I never changed it, because I just kept getting people come, hey, it works. The topicals are unreal. I've tried everything. So when I heard those studies come through, Israel is the gold standard for cannabis, cannabinoids research, all of it. Spain is really good at it too. I wish America could get on board
soon.
I hope so. I think all of the planets are aligning now, and I think a lot of people that are going through different types of diseases and disorders, they're afraid of the drugs that are developed because they have so many side effects. And, the great thing about cannabis is there's really few side effects.
Incredibly low risk.
With THC, you actually get the munchies. And a lot of women don't want that. They don't want to start eating more and gaining weight. And you mentioned THCV. That's actually a diet cannabinoid. It actually
right. It's shown THCV has shown some hunger suppression or
totally
appetite suppression properties.
So of course those are very minor cannabinoids. It's hard to get those cannabinoids out, but again, like I try to tell people, I'm like, do you realize how abundant the cannabis plant really is? Like one plant, one flower could help 50 people. One. So the abundance in the lowest dose is really what's so exciting about to me, because they don't have to pay a lot for it. I mentioned my price. People that are doing the RSO method, they're spending $6,000.
So RSO, for those who aren't familiar, Rick Simpson Oil, originally I think popularized by Rick Simpson, but it's also called full spectrum oil, and it's essentially an ethanol extraction that concentrates. It tries to concentrate all of the cannabinoids into
not only the cannabinoids, but plant material too.
Right. So you're getting like chlorophyll and lipids.
Yeah,
and,
you're getting
other stuff.
And that really was where I made my discovery of, because the first 5 remissions, I'm like, there's just no way. It's like I couldn't believe it. So I started researching, and everything I was doing is exactly what the research was showing, that the dosing range were in the low range. The cannabinoid profiles were multi-spectrum, and a lot of it was in the acidic form. So you have to kind of go back to where you started, and I really haven't changed my formulations that much. It's like, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Right.
And I'm dealing with, people that are in life or death situations. I have other clients that may have autism, epilepsy, every type of skin disorder, and it might not be as serious to them, but it's very mentally draining to have certain disorders that you can't seem to find an answer for.
That's a lot. I mean, there are so many chronic autoimmune type conditions and disorders that are very poorly treated by current medicine.
Hey, and to this date, I don't know a single person that uses cannabis daily that has COVID. And the reason is, I believe, is because cannabis is an immune modulator. It keeps your immune system in stasis.
I mean, and that's and so we'll put the, like, this is all anecdotal, obviously, but at the same time, if you're looking at something like COVID-19, why would you limit the range of investigation into the most expensive or the most hard to develop products, when you have an abundance of compounds that have therapeutic effects. Now, I wouldn't say go so far as to say that it'd be a cure.
The only thing you need, yeah.
Right, but at the same time, right, if you were suffering from any kind of condition that had some chronic or element to it, why wouldn't you explore or investigate cannabis?
And that's a great point. And I can tell you, the wall is very high.
Oh, sure.
I have people with weeks to live that still refuse to even give it a try. And it's not their fault. It's been propagandized to the point where now you don't see in the mainstream media, it's rappers and rock stars, and they're smoking it, and you don't have a guy, taking a little squirt because it doesn't really look cool,
right?
So the older population, my dad's 90, he takes the protocols daily. I just skied the top of Mammoth with him before COVID hit. He's a stud. And the elder populations, there is a fear for it. They're afraid they're going to get high and out of control, and they'll revert back to those movies that they used to show to propagandize it. But when I show them what my products are and how to take them, it really lowers that barrier almost to nothing.
Well, they look far more like medicine than like a pre-roll, for example.
And then they actually utilize the protocols, and they discover something that I've had a lot of them say, I wish I would have known about this 50 years ago. Some of them have been taking pharma drugs for 30, 40 years.
I mean, there's a lot of older vets who are in that situation.
Yeah.
Half of all vets are over 65, so they are squarely in that range of senior patients.
Yeah, and you speak of the veterans. You know how much I love them and respect them.
Been a big supporter. Yeah.
And I've seen tremendous effects with them. One of the things I've noticed in the military retired guys is if they're utilizing cannabis, they're taking a lot. They're smoking it all day. They're ingesting. They're dabbing. They're doing all kinds of stuff, and it's great. I don't think it's wrong, but I believe that they're overdosing themselves to where instead of taking a long-term approach to, say, suicidal ideation, they're escaping for the day, and then they wake up and they have to start the program over again. And as we all know the phrase wake and bake, a lot of them do that. The minute they get up, they're taking it. Now, I don't think that's wrong. I don't think it's bad. But if they're looking to have a future result of maybe getting off of their medications, the lower dose methodology works better.
Yes.
And in fact, one of our good friends, Colin, he's told me that when he takes it, he smokes half of what he normally does. Mm-hmm. He just doesn't have that necessity for it.
Founded by former NFL All-Pro Kyle Turley, NeuroXPF is a sports supplement company specializing in the medicinal benefits of cannabinoids. NeuroXPF makes and sells a full line of high-quality, certified organic, hemp-derived CBD products. All NeuroXPF products are THC-free. They use a special CO2 extracting process to isolate the CBD, working hard to preserve the terpenes in order to modulate the effects of their hemp-derived CBD. This adds that little extra punch to NeuroXPF products so they taste better and provide some beneficial qualities. To learn more about and purchase the NeuroXPF's products, please visit their website at neuroxpf.com. For more information about their current investment opportunity, please visit the Wrazel investment marketplace at wrazel.com.
If you're a patient and your body and you're listening to your body signals, for pain or for to let you know that whatever conditions that you're dealing with are in need of treatment, and suddenly like those signals diminish because your body has a regular supply, low dose of a full spectrum of cannabinoids, I think then I think people start to understand it's like, okay, there might be better ways of using cannabis than the ones that we've become most familiar with. But
Absolutely.
We'll leave it there for now. We covered a lot of stuff, but I'd love to have you leave the viewers with some final words.
Sure.
And
So if I was to convey anything of importance about maybe taking the chance at cannabis, do your research. There's a lot of it out there. There's a lot of global research, and if I had any message for anyone is there's no need to fear it. There's never been a death associated with cannabis in 10,000 years of human history. It's safe, it's effective, and it's abundant. And if you educate yourself and you learn more about it, I think the barrier for you to make the choice to try it will be a lot shorter and lower. And I believe that if you do take that choice and make that decision to give it a try, you're going to discover another way to help keep your body in the state that you're looking to keep it in, which is a healthy state and a wellness state. And you can do that really simply with cannabis. So I highly recommend giving it a try. Obviously do your research, but definitely give it a try.
And do you have a website or some information where people can...
Yeah, I mean, I have a website, mjsdelivers.com, MJ's Delivers. And I'm not a delivery service. I'm a manufacturer. What I mean by delivers is I continue to deliver results. And so you can go there. Some of the other places I send my clients to is healer.com. You get a very great educational resource. And also... even some of the government websites, cancer.gov, even though it's a government website, it has a lot of information on it. And I think by getting different subsets of people that may have researched it, to learn as much as you can about it. And that way, I've always been the type that you educate before you medicate. And I think once you do that, it allows the patient to understand really what they're doing and why they're doing it. Because a lot of them are like, why am I taking this stuff every day? I don't feel nothing.
Well, and I think, just to close out, like the idea of, cannabis provides some patients, I think I would include myself in that, like a sense of ownership in their own healing process. Yeah. Especially as a home grower in California, I'm growing my own plants. I'm learning how to do simple extractions and other means. Of course, there are always going to be, I think, more precision, and more known, more known dose type products that are going to be better suited for some patients. But I think for all patients, I think understanding, getting involved with the plant, understanding it, embracing, learning about it is just valuable unto itself. Yeah. And in terms of educating yourself about how to best medicate, it's invaluable.
100%. And that's a great thing is you can grow your own medicine.
Right.
You don't have to buy mine. You can make it yourself. And there's a lot of ways to go about it. And I think that it's actually, like you just said, taking ownership of your wellness. I try to tell every patient, this is your decision. It's not theirs. Right. You get the final decision. So do your own research and let that guide you, because a lot of people's intuition really is powerful, especially women.
You know yourself, and especially women who are so often disbelieved by medical practitioners.
Yeah. I have a lot of nurses that they are Western med, but they're totally holistic on their side, and they fight with it every day. They want to educate, but they're stuck. So hopefully we'll break down that barrier, and we'll get it into more people's hands. And you've always been about educating. Thank you for all your service you've done on a national level. We need more people like you, and I know there's more people out there. They may not know how to go about it, but I think you guys are leading the way, and I'm really happy to be part of it, really.
Well, thank you, Joe. And Joe has always been a big supporter of veterans, and especially in Southern California, and has helped people that I have known personally. So thank you for the work that you've done, for consistently, trying to focus on the medicinal properties and delivering the best results, as you said, as you can to, your patients and clients. So thank you, Joe Aaron, again, from MJ's Therapeutic Brands. And this is Eric Goepel with Healing of the Nation. Thank you.